They make a triangle, and then there's the strong one where the lilac bush is. So
Wow.
that makes it very significant. And I learned that in that building that used to be out there that I saw when I was a kid, and why I had to look at it constantly. So if you see something coming at you and you're in danger, you don't look away from it, right? So what I was doing was I was picking up what I feel. A little boy was 6 years old, was in that building, and it was his last moments of his life. Somebody was coming at him. He was beaten so much that he died by accident. And what I was picking up was his last few seconds, and that's why I had to stare. I was picking up on him having to stare at what was coming at him, and that's why I felt the fear. I felt his fear of somebody coming at him.
Unbelievable. And that you've mentioned to me off camera that there's a theme here of abuse. Can you go into that for me?
There are layers here. I have to mention, just in case outwardly things start to change for me, I do, when I tell stories, tell stuff like this, I start to experience different things, whether it be emotions or physical issues with me. Right now I'm feeling a lot of tightness and anxiety in my chest, and I feel like I have to cry. They cry through me, but I'm not going to. But I'm starting to feel very emotional here because I'm telling their story. You might need to turn it off.
Tell me if you want a minute.
I can tell you that the ones that are very emotional right now are the ones that are in this room, and I'm about to tell their story. So it is. I'm just telling them that they need to stop.
It's okay.
Okay. There's layers on the property, and it goes back to as far back as before before the white people were here. So it's been seen natives have been way out there, but so there's been Quakers that lived here, and their way of doing things was the men were the kings, and the women had to do exactly what they were told. There was a lot of incest back then, and because the Quakers were so tight, the things that happened within their community were not reported. So there's a lot of abuse that happened on this property. So much abuse that people were killed by accident. Children actually killed themselves to get away from the abuse. Yeah. Daughters were molested by fathers and grandfathers. They were impregnated, not on purpose, I doubt on purpose, but no birth control. So it took me 6 years. It was right after that crew was here that it's amazing how see, I knew this was going to happen. You block things out until you're ready to know about it. I lived here 6 years before I realized that there were 2 locks on the basement door. Why would there be 2 locks on the basement door? Well, I've come up with 2 possible reasons. One is girls were kept prisoner down in the basement, and they had their children, their babies down in the basement. So a lot of these babies didn't make it because they were products of incest. So what I've been told is that many of them are buried out back. There used to be an orchard out back of pears, so I couldn't figure out why there's 3 pear trees out back in a line. Well, it appears that they are markers. There's a lot of babies and children back there. So the theme here is abuse, and like a secret society kind of thing. So the men who were your typical abuse profile kind of people, old school kind of things, are outside. Most of them are outside. Most of the women and children are in here. So you see why I'm getting emotional. It's because I'm telling their story of their pain and their suffering. Yes. So they're kind of filtering their emotion through me, showing, because they're lost, right? So they're showing we're hurting. and this is how they're showing, right?
Yes.
There is one male in here.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be really mad that I'm telling this, but there is a male in here. He was the initial woman that I thought of. It was her husband.
Okay.
He died. He was sick here. I don't know if he died here, but he is here. He is abusive, according to what we agree with now. Agree with now in terms of the definition of abuse. Back then, he was normal, right?
Mm.
Because I'm a counselor for abuse, I'm counseling them. He's not happy with that. He's not happy that I'm here.
Right.
So he's not happy with women. He doesn't like women.
Now, you've mentioned before as well that you were warned that you only had a certain amount of time to learn to protect yourself.
That night, March 2nd.
Okay.
This is part of what caused me to be very overwhelmed.
Okay.
Because of the fact that they were telling me that night, that they warned me that everything was going to start to get stronger here.
Okay.
So, and then they also said that whoever lives here is not protected properly. The house is not protected properly.
Mm-hmm.
So, the things that I was told I had to do was to, first of all, protect the house balance the house out by putting amethyst and clear crystal on the corners, at the corners of all the house, and then a pile in the middle, which ironically is also where the vortex is. So, there's a pile hanging in the stairway. For the first year, I wore those same crystals around my neck every day. Excuse me. Until I learned how to protect myself in other ways. Because fashion-wise, it's, it doesn't give you a lot of options on, you always have this purple hanging around your neck. So, but that is hanging in my car, because sometimes I have issues in the car now. Because as the house is getting stronger and I'm learning about who I am, I'm getting stronger. Okay. So when I get stronger, I'm like a magnet, so I can drive down the street and things just hop in my car. So I have stuff hanging in my car as well. So I've also been told I have to do meditations in the morning and meditations at night that have to do with aligning my chakras. Okay. So because what happens is this is considered like a storm of energy in this house. They come and go, right? There's some constants. I mean, there's 5 constants in my room alone. Okay. They come and go all the time, and I pretty much walk through them all the time. I interact with them all the time. There's always one just kind of sitting on top of me or sitting next to me. So on a daily basis, they throw my chakras all off. So I have to, on a daily basis, realign them. Okay. I have to, on rough days, I have a medicine pouch that it's actually, it hangs around my neck on rough days, but I keep it in my purse so that I keep that everywhere. On rough nights, because I live here alone. So on rough nights, when there's somebody in the house that's working on emotions, so when there's a strong negative, usually male in the house, I feel extreme anxiety. So I pick up anxiety. So I know that there's a problem in the house. So I fall asleep with this medicine pouch. I hold it, I grasp it in my hand. I wake up with it, just like this. Yes. Right here at my heart chakra. So, and it's amazing how I just change. Maybe it's powerful suggestion because I believe in it. But there's an amethyst and clear crystal in that medicine pouch as well.
Wonderful. And so the TV crew has informed you, is this right, about some of these aspects. And from that point forward, how has your life been?
Well, I just wanted to add a little bit more to about the protections there. That's the stuff that I do. I also have a lot of people who protect me on the outside. Okay. I can also do what's called the white light protection. So on times when that's very trying and challenging, all I have to do is visualize a white light around me or my energy from the inside pushing out. I do that a lot as I'm lying in bed and I say out loud, "You cannot do this to me," and I push it out. Nice. So as I said that the TV crew were here the one night, that was a Monday. On the next Saturday, they came back again. It was like a 2-parter that it was supposed to be an episode for the show. And so they sat me down at the table here and they presented me with pictures that they took that night. And they were just phenomenal pictures. One is it looks like a flame, but it's actually, I've been told it's an energy spike. It's somebody actually coming through the vortex in the center. And it's to the naked eye, you couldn't see anything. But to this picture, on this picture, it's like this flame right in the middle of this tree. It's amazing. And we have a picture of the vortex in the basement coming up, you know, and it spins in one part, and then another part, it actually looks like somebody coming through. My favorite picture, now I knew that when my grandmother died when I was 15, that I knew that she was one of my protectors and one of my spirit guides. I've always felt her with me and my children. And I always knew that she was a part of all this. So when I was presented with this picture, right away I knew it was my grandmother, because spirits will present to you identifying quality of them. And when she was 3 years old, she fell and she smashed her lip, and so she lived her whole life with this big fat lip. Well, this spirit has a fat lip, and her eyes, I could tell it's her through her eyes, just the feeling I got from looking in these eyes. And there's a band of light, it's like her arms, if she was physical. It would be arms holding, going like this. And behind her, there's two green men, green faces, which I've done the research, it's usually represents addiction. And then there's another one, and then there's like a 12-year-old who's got her arm around. It's like a family there, and a bunch of different ones, and two old men over here. And there's a ton of them there, and a nasty one, which I haven't brought up yet, but we do have something that's followed my family for years and years, and he's right here. But she's stronger, and he's weaker. So she's like, my love protects you from him. And I said, where was this picture taken? And they said, in my barn. Well, the barn holds all the negative.
Right.
And I got really upset. I said, there's no way my grandmother would make herself live in the barn to sacrifice for my happiness. I was really upset. And then somebody said, well, where was your son when this picture was taken? And it made a lot of sense.
Yes.
My son was there. She was protecting my son from all these others. And they caught it on film. So I love that picture. That's a great picture.
I've seen it, and it's amazing.
And there's a few more, but those three are my absolute favorites. Now,
we have to ask this question. There's a lot happening here, and most people wouldn't stay in it, I would assume. What holds you here?
Well, I've been here, number one, I've been here for 6 years before I found all this out. So I think it would be a lot different if I just moved in here and then found this out. But being here for 6 years, I could tell myself, well, I'm not going to get hurt because I've been here for 6 years and nothing's really happened. Also, I was attracted to that building since I was as young as, 6, 7 years old. I just instinctively know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. That night on March 2nd, I was told I chose this before I was born, and I was allowed to choose this. And there are a lot of connections to my ancestors. In fact, I've been told that my ancestors are out back. I've done the physical research and I've been able to connect my ancestors with the people who lived on this property who are supposed to be here still. So there's a big part of me that knows that I'm supposed to be doing this, and I know that there'd be consequences if I left. I was told I had the choice to leave by mediums, but I just need to stay. I feel this is my responsibility. I've been told enough that this is my responsibility. This is the highlight of my lifetime.
Now, you've mentioned off camera, January 30th this year, something really significant happens. Do you mind telling the audience about that experience?
Well, prior to that, things did build up to that point. I've had several paranormal investigative groups here and individuals here, and I document everything that they tell me, and they don't know what each other says. How their protocol is, they want to come on the property, they want to know nothing, because as soon as they know things, it's power suggestion. It just biased what they pick up. Okay. So they give me what they pick up, and then things that are consistent with them all, those are the things that I believe are happening on the property, because how could they all pick up the same stuff if it didn't exist? Yes. And things are definitely getting stronger here. But, and through all of this, I kept getting, you're supposed to heal the property. Because I had 6 months, I didn't tell you, I had 6 months to protect myself, or I was going to become overcome. Mentally incapable of functioning, I was told. That's part of why I was overwhelmed.